Desert Sanctuary with Karl and Laura Forehand.
Often when we have doubts about religion, or we want to be contemplative, or simply ask questions, it can feel like we are wandering out into the desert.
We would like to welcome you to our sanctuary, the Desert Sanctuary.
We've tried to pick guests that resonate with our fellow friends and seekers here in the desert.
Our hope is that you will find life for your body, soul, and spirit.
And now, here is our show.
Howdy ho, neighbors, and welcome back to the Desert Sanctuary. We're glad you came along. I'm Karl Forehand, and this is Laura.
Hello.
It's the other way around, right?
Yeah, we switched roles today.
Yeah, because I really wanted to interview you. There's a lot of things that I get from you from time to time, and I think the listeners would like to hear your voice, right?
Okay, sure.
How do you feel about that?
Well,
honestly,
I mean, don't be surprised if this is your lowest downloaded podcast, which is fine. I mean,
or my best, right?
No,
our best.
no, but that's okay. I mean, people need to be authentic and listen to what feeds their soul, and if this isn't it, then I'm not going to be offended.
Okay. Maybe we just won't even look. We'll just leave it out there for what it's worth and see who let people enjoy it if they want to.
Yeah, that's kind of,
I
I do a whole brain teaching podcast, kind of an educational platform, and I used to look at the downloads all the time, and then probably over the last year, I just really don't. I mean, every once in a while, like when I'm uploading a new episode that we do, I'll look and I'll be like, oh, downloads aren't where they used to be, but people are busy and things happen and life gets in the way, and so you can't really it's kind of like church, right? Every Sunday we'd be, I remember you asking me to count
how many people
were there, and if it was less than the week before, we kind of take that personally, right? It's it must be something I did. So anyway, but people have lives, and they work in podcasts when they can. So although it's summer, so when you're out mowing your yard or gardening,
hopefully people will be listening to them on their trips and things like that.
For sure, yeah.
And I don't know why we want so many listeners. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like in real life, if you had 100 people you knew and 2 or 3 of them read your book or something like that, then you're like, wow, that's extraordinary that several people. And it's the same way when you see people downloaded the podcast. Well, 5 people downloaded the podcast. Well, then, once it gets bigger than that, then we start focusing on, well, do we go up any? Do we, do we have 300 now? Do we have, and typically a session will have about 500 downloads, but you still can get focused on it and go, why is it not going up? Why is it not as good as it was last week? And those kind of things, I think, will drive us crazy.
Yep, I agree with you.
So you are a second grade teacher, about to be a third grade teacher.
Yeah, I would say I'm no longer a second grade teacher.
You're stepping up.
My school year has ended. I'm doing summer school, and so I'll have second graders that are going to third grade in summer school. But for the new school year in the fall, I've been promoted to third grade, but a different school district. So it's totally different school. It's actually one that's literally 2 minutes from our house. So I'm pretty excited about that.
You could walk to school, but you said, I'm not doing that.
Well, if it's a nice day out, maybe, but...
You also carry about 100 pounds of stuff every day.
Yeah, I take my lunch every day, and I have a coffee, and I have my iced tea in another cup, so yeah. I mean,
you have to have a backpack.
Pretty much,
back support.
And those memes that you see where teachers look like they're going on a trip when they leave the house to go to school is not
It's
too
true.
far from the truth.
It's true. You have
Yeah.
every handful
Yeah.
usually,
Pretty much. But
and then some.
yeah. So I'm excited, mainly and without like saying a whole lot, but I was telling you last night that I feel like in this new school that I'm going to be in, like, it feels like I belong. And I feel like for the last 6 years that I've been trying to fit in at my old school. And that's just really important to me, is belonging. Because to me, belonging is like, I can be who I am. I don't have to change for anybody. I don't have to like survey the people and the landscape, and go, okay, that's how I need to behave, or that's how I need to act in order to be accepted.
In order to fit in.
Right. So, and it's strange. We've been doing like inner medicine work, like we've shared on the podcast, for about, 12 weeks now. And, that's just been a big part of it, is learning to, find where I belong rather than where I fit in. So, yeah.
So you do a special kind of teaching called whole brain teaching, which is something about how many years ago?
Well, it was, when it originated.
No, when
I started it, I've been doing it probably for 8 or 9 years now.
So 8 or 9 years ago in the summertime, you just took it upon yourself to read this book, go to a conference, and learn it yourself.
Right.
They give most of their instruction away free.
Yep.
And so on like that. So you just went on your own time, your own money, and learned this process of classroom management. And then now you've implemented it, you've taught it to others, and you bring that to your new school. It's something that no one else has there. And, it's, I think, or it seems like you're well known for that. Can you talk about that for a little bit? Why you did it and what it is and things like that?
Well, my biggest reason for doing it was, so at the first school that I taught, so this is actually going to be my third school that I'm starting in the fall, but the very first school I was teaching at, I was on the bottom floor with like preschool and kindergarten, so I taught first grade. And I could see the students that I was going to be getting the following year. And so I watched how much
the ones that were like me.
Yeah, well, I don't know, because I didn't know you back then. But I just saw how much the kindergarten teacher was struggling with this group of boys. And they were just,
Wait, we got to clarify that. You knew me then.
I didn't know you when you were little, when you were in school.
Oh, when I was wondering.
Yeah.
Okay, I get you. Thank you.
So, anyway, so I just saw how, they just all fed off each other, and it was just a lot of energy. And so I was really nervous about getting them in first grade, and it was a big class. And, so I just went online and, Googled, classroom management strategies, and it came up. And at first I thought it was very, too good to be true, because everything was free. You didn't have to pay to go to conferences. Like you said, you had to find your way there. So that money, and of course the main book that Chris Biffle wrote, he sells it on Amazon. But that's not the main thing. Like everything else is on, like Teachers Pay Teachers, for any teachers out there that know.
And now
it's all free.
Now there's a podcast hosted by yours truly, right?
Yeah, I host it with my friend Rhonda Arlt, and yeah, we love it. And we kind of, that's just another avenue. But yeah, so that's how I found it and started doing it that year, and I've never looked back. So
what is whole brain teaching?
Well, it's kind of what it sounds like. You just use all the areas of your brain. So I teach my students, even my first graders, I taught them the brain. So we talk about like the prefrontal cortex, the motor cortex, the visual cortex, auditory. So it's using it when I teach. It's very kinesthetic and a lot of mirroring. So I teach in small chunks so that the kids can repeat what I say and do whatever gestures I give them. And so there's a lot of movement, but the more, it's kind of like I always heard, the more senses you use when you're learning something, the better you're going to retain it. And that's kind of the same thing. The more areas of your brain you can use, the better you're going to retain that information. And knowing too that like there's a lot of neurodiversity out there, so you know, you might have people, which I've had students in my class with autism. I've had students in my class that are nonverbal, but they can still do gestures. And even if, when I say nonverbal, so I'm thinking of one student in particular, you know, he could like make sounds but couldn't form words correctly. He's doing like better with that now that he's older, but you know, he could still, even though the words didn't sound like, you know, like if I said rule number 1, follow directions quickly, it didn't sound like that, but he could still, you know, do it. Like he would do the gestures and he would, you know, verbalize the best that he could. He would, you know, do everything. So knowing that there's, you know, neurodivergence out there, because we all learn differently, I just feel like whole brain teaching is a way to tap into students no matter how they learn, because some learn auditory, some learn visually, some learn kinesthetically, and so it's kind of a nice way for all of your students to learn. And if you do have like autistic students who can't handle like loud noises, you know, that we can differentiate that instruction so that, because it is a very high energy way of teaching, but you don't always have to teach with that much energy. You can actually, you know, alter your voice to a whisper or something like that.
Okay, so rabbit trail. How is a church sermon not whole brain teaching?
Well, you can't participate at all. So
yeah,
there you go. Like you're basically just sitting there, which is, you know, as teachers, we think our kids are listening to us, right? Their eyes are on us, but they could be thinking about the fact that they didn't eat breakfast that morning, or, you know, what they're going to do after school today.
Or after church.
Or after church, or, you know, yeah, for sure. I mean, there were many a times in church sitting on the front row that, I was looking right at you, but I might have been thinking, oh, shoot, we better go by Walmart because I'm out of this and I wanted to make this for lunch after church, or where are we going to eat after church? You know, like, so people can look like they're paying attention, but the only part of their brain that's engaged is the part that is hearing you. Now, what about somebody that is, you know, hard of hearing? They're getting nothing really out of, you know, I mean, I'm generalizing. Somebody that's hard of hearing may listen to this podcast and go, well, I get a lot out of it. And so I don't want to, you know, I don't want to speak for everybody, but I'm just saying that, a church service, you're not using your whole brain when you're sitting there. So.
I just had the thought that some maybe more charismatic churches do get you up and moving.
True.
But it tends to be kind of chaotic sometimes, and not necessarily. I know your classroom is really focused from the time you say class and they say yes, and then they're engaged and they may be standing up. Well, they are standing up, right?
Mostly. Sometimes they are sitting down. Sure, they can be. It's whatever. Yeah.
But then you have ways that you reward them, like class woos and stuff like that.
10-finger woos.
10-finger woos, and
or they can get dice rolls. There's no treasure boxes and stuff like that. I don't use treasure boxes and things like that. So there's no like, here's a piece of candy for doing what I asked you to do, or
but then
whatever.
you teach a small segment, like the subject of the sentence does this, and then they repeat it, and they have actions or gestures that they do, and you're leading those, and they're very tightly organized, and then they get feedback, and then they teach each other. Which is a real cool part of it. My favorite part of whole brain teaching, as you know, is
you're still cool.
When you guys say you're still cool. And so talk about that, because I don't want to distort it any.
No, but so one of the big proponents of, I mean, there's so many different facets of it, but one of the big things is a no fear classroom. And so we don't want kids to ever feel, bad, or I'm going to use a word I don't like to use, but we don't like them to feel stupid. And I say that only because I've felt that way in school for saying the wrong answer, or whatever. So if someone makes a mistake, mistakes are how we learn, right? So if somebody makes a mistake, or whatever, we'll just like, for example, we do what's called the magic circle, or the teaching cycle, as it used to be called. So I would call class, they would say yes, I would say mirror words. So sometimes when the kids are actually doing the whole teaching cycle and teaching, they may just go into teaching instead of calling the class. So like if they forget to call the class, we'll just say, I might go, oh, let's hang on a second. And then we'll all just go, you're still cool. And then I'll just remind them, go ahead and call the class. So, it's so that students are not afraid to make mistakes, because we all make mistakes. And that's how we introduce it when we talk about you're so cool. I just asked everybody in the classroom, I'm just like, who in here has made a mistake in their life? And I'm one to raise my hand like first. So they know that I make a mistake. And so honestly, when I make a mistake in teaching, they'll tell me, Mrs. Forehand, you're still cool.
Still cool.
Yep. So, but it really does create a very positive, uplifting, encouraging classroom environment.
So sometimes the kids are leading the whole class.
Oh, yeah.
And when they do that, sometimes they just they don't know what to say. They totally forgot.
Yeah.
And then I've seen videos where then the kids will go, you're still cool, and they gather around.
Well, they'll also say, help me.
Help me.
So they'll say, help me, and then kids will come around them and they'll help them with something. Yeah. And then we can continue.
That's a really cool aspect that we could apply to a lot of our life.
Right. Right.
Number one, let that person not join in the laughter, like what's natural to do. Someone laughs because it makes them uncomfortable, and then just like you laugh when you listen to a comic or something, when someone else is laughing, you join in the laughter, and that's very demoralizing.
Yeah, I mean, that's the whole thing. I don't know if anyone can relate, but like I totally can relate. Like I was never a very strong reader in school, and so but we would always do these popcorn reads or these round robins or something like that. Anyway, it's a horrible way to do it, because that your time's coming, and so you're not paying attention. You're not listening to the other person who's reading right before you, because you're like, or at least this was my experience, I was busy reading the paragraph that I was responsible for, and heaven forbid if I didn't know a word or how to pronounce a word in there, and then you're for someone like me, that was very scary and embarrassing. And what I'm learning about trauma, like that can be a traumatic experience for kids. So we want to create safe learning environments for all kids. Like it does not matter your learning style, your learning ability, it just doesn't matter. Like you can learn. It just might be different from your neighbor, and that's okay.
Yeah. So I mentioned the rules the other day, and you were telling me a little bit about the rules again. I've heard them before, and I might know some of them even. But there's like 5, right?
There's 5 in the diamond rule.
Yeah. So what are those 5 rules as quick as you can?
Okay. Rule number 1 is follow directions quickly. Rule number 2, raise your hand for permission to speak. Rule number 3, raise your hand for permission to leave your seat. Rule number 4, make smart choices. And then we have some character things that come under that, but I won't go into those. Rule number 5 is make our deer team stronger. And then the diamond rule is keep your eyes on the target. And so those really, like, they almost overlap each other. But
so it used to be keep your teacher happy.
It used to be keep your dear teacher happy. And then it was like, I can't remember the one after that. Like, keep your dear team happy or something like that. Or dear classroom happy. I don't know. Mm-hmm. But now, and I really like it, keep your dear teams, what was it? Rule number 5, make our dear team stronger. There we go. Sorry.
Yeah.
But
cool.
Thanks. I really like that one because it's the concept of we're all in this together. Yeah. We are a team in our classroom, and we, kind of like a lot of these kids in our small town, they play baseball, they play soccer, so they know what it means to be on a team. So it's really easy to then transfer that concept of team to the classroom, being a team.
Yeah. So shift gears a little bit. You and I have, you helped me write the last book, and we're working on another one together. And we've kind of been on this journey of deconstruction together, although, at times we're at different places with it and so on. So maybe we can kind of give a summary of how it's been going. I don't know how long we've been at this, since 2016, right? Mm-hmm. It's when it kind of started and has evolved since then. Mm-hmm. But now, we've done a lot of podcasts. We've listened to a lot of stories of people in the desert. What do you want to talk about just as it pertains to here's where we are, here's what I've learned, here's what I'm struggling with, here's the encouragement I want to give to other people. People still view you as a ex-pastor's wife, just like they view me as an ex-pastor, but we aren't emphasizing that, I don't think.
I don't know.
But it's part of our story. It's part of how things happen for us. But we really are two almost 60-year-olds. Not you corrected me the other day.
I lost my shit the other day when he was like, "You're almost 60." I'm like, "I am 58."
Yeah.
I think it's because I feel younger than what I'm envisioning 60 would be. Mm-hmm. I know I'm not that far from it, but anyway, go ahead.
So now we've been through a stroke. We have family issues like anyone else does that we work on all the time. Plus, we're trying to grow, trying to learn, and like you mentioned, we're taking an intermedicine class right now, and we're constantly reading and writing. So, kind of, where are you in this evolution? What do you want to talk about?
Well, you might have to go back and ask me those questions separately. But where am I right now? Like, I feel like I'm in a good place on most days. I do, like, one of the things with our intermedicine journey is that we've been learning these last 6 weeks is to not take anything personally. And so I've really been speaking that out loud because that's been an aspect of my life, talking about belonging versus fitting in. I've always been the type of person that needs to, if somebody's upset with me or just upset, I immediately think it's something that I did and I need to fix this. Mm-hmm. And so, even something just happened yesterday and I just have to literally say out loud, don't take anything personally. Don't take anything personally. That's their, don't take on their shit.
So what was that example without giving specifics?
Yeah. So I got an email, and I'm really not going to give a lot of information. Right. It wasn't, it was pretty generic. It was a pretty generic email, but there was something in it that made me go, well, why would they say that? What
did they mean by that?
Yeah, what did they mean by that? And so I can spiral really fast if I focus. It was one thing, basically 5 words, but that's all I was focusing on in the whole email. And so I can just spiral really fast and go, oh my gosh, what did I do? Oh God, I've offended them. Oh no, now they're going to be mad at me. Now that, I bet they're just rolling their eyes at me and think that I'm just a complete, imbecile. It spirals fast. Mm-hmm. So that's been really helpful for me to go, okay, take a breath. Don't take it personally. Don't read all your, don't throw all your trauma in there and read so much into it and it was like something that you said to me, you're like, well, didn't you want to do that activity from home? And I'm like, yeah. Didn't they give you permission to go ahead and do that activity at home? And I'm like, yep, they did. So, mm-hmm. Kind of helping me come back around to where it's like, okay, don't take those 5 words.
Especially when they're not clear.
Exactly.
Right.
And what I need to do in that situation, I thought about this last night too. If it's really bothering me that bad, get on the phone and ask for clarification, mm-hmm. But I was able to just kind of, and I've been trying to do a lot of more of that lately. It's just those intentions and speaking them out loud. Yeah. So, another example is, I went to Step Up Day at my school that I'm going to be teaching at next year. And so I didn't know these kids at all that I was about to meet. And I was telling my sister this today because I just kept telling myself, you can do this. You're the adult, mm-hmm. I know you're nervous. It's okay. It's okay to be nervous. You can do anything for 30 minutes. This is mm-hmm. 30 minutes. You can do anything for 30 minutes. Go in there and have fun, smile, let them know, we're going to be a team next year. Mm-hmm. And it really did go so much better than I could have ever anticipated. And so much better than things like that have gone in the past, because in the past I would have been like, I can't do this. This is too scary. This is too big. Mm-hmm. I'm not equipped. I'm not good enough, And so I do think that this inner medicine training that we're doing has given me a lot of those kind of intentions to set for myself. I think I struggled at the beginning of it because, like anything, we want to know, okay, is this the real deal? Is this the certainty that I, mm-hmm. And then, so we had talked a lot about that, about not making it into like another religion, because mm-hmm. I want to be open. I want to always be learning as long as I'm breathing. Mm-hmm. I don't want anything to be like, this is it and I'm done, kind of thing. Mm-hmm. So, yeah. Yeah,
so these are the 4 agreements. It's one of the 4 mm-hmm. agreements. We've had one in each of the mm-hmm. directions. We've had one of the agreements from Don Miguel Ruiz. And this one, when I first read the book a long time ago, or a while back, they said, don't take anything personally. And I was kind of like, well, fuck you. I want to be mad about this.
Yeah.
And you have also helped me with that. Like, someone kind of did something not mm-hmm. too long ago.
Right.
And there's been a couple of them. Mm-hmm. And you've kind of encouraged me to process it, to be mad for a little while.
Yeah.
And we're not, I don't think by saying don't take it personally, you're saying excuse it, because if we excuse it or bypass it, then
right.
we create trauma. But it's like, hey, it's just it's like a pause, mm-hmm. And saying, I don't think I like this, and then like you did with that situation, I don't know if I understand what they were saying even, mm-hmm. and they may have been trying to say something totally different and just typed wrong or something.
True.
And it just wasn't clear, and so your mind was making up stories. Mm-hmm. But it's like, even if they're being mean, even if they're whatever they're doing, that's probably their shit and doesn't have anything to do with you.
Right. But, I mean, I think you can take a look and go, okay, did I contribute to that? Like, especially if, like, there's somebody that is acting aggressively, which wasn't my situation. Is there maybe something I could have done a little differently? But I think the thing that this is helping me with is not, like, I can be responsible and change myself. I am not going to take on somebody else's shit. That is for them to do. And I think that is such a drastic mind shift for me, because all my life I have been taking on other people's shit and saying, now I have to fix this situation. I have to make them like me. I have to make them approve of me. And that is like no way to live. That is so unhealthy. And you're constantly like hyper vigilant. Your brain is offline like all the time.
Trying to head things off at the pass before they happen.
Yep.
Right.
Yep. So it's really like when I say because I say this a lot, when we started deconstructing, I'm like, I didn't even know who I was. Well, that makes a lot of sense now. Why I wouldn't, because I was too busy trying to, like you said, head everybody off at the pass so that we could all, like, everybody could live in harmony except for me. I was a complete mess inside. I might have looked okay on the outside, but I was a complete bundle of nerves on the inside.
Yeah, and just for anybody that's interested, the books are Inner Medicine by Carrie Hummingbird and The Four Agreements by Don Miguel Ruiz.
What was the first agreement? I can't. Be impeccable with your words.
Be impeccable with your words.
That was a really good one for me too, because and it's not like you can't. I don't know. It was just a really good one for me. Just really helped me be more aware of what I was saying and whether that was really kind of how I wanted to represent myself, I guess. Yeah.
And that's important for me. If people don't keep their word, that's just kind of part of it. But if people don't keep their word, that's a big deal to me,
Yeah.
So this, where are you at now with, just a broad question, and you can answer it however you want, but so where are you with God, church, Bible, those kind of things? I can say for me, I feel like there's a very definite line in the sand where a lot of people go and start deconstructing, and then they kind of become more progressive, and they kind of stop there. I think I have definitely made a conscious decision to go further. I mean, I've been studying and thinking and writing and so on towards that end, but now it's almost like where there's tension between me and that group, because I'm not so willing to authenticate what they're doing or agree with it, and that's, to me, that's being impeccable with your word.
Yep.
I can't just say, hey, this guy's got a great book and I agree.
Right.
When I don't agree with what they're saying, that's disingenuous. It's not a genuine word.
Yeah. Some people don't like that, though. Some people don't like when you're impeccable with your words, because you are speaking truth about yourself. And if that doesn't jive with somebody, then they get very offended. But again, that goes back to, you can't take things personally. That is their shit, right? Like, if they are struggling with that, and I've seen you do this, all you can do is say, I'm sorry you feel that way. I never, I didn't mean, that wasn't my intent, whatever. But if they...
But you can't ask me to...
Right.
endorse something I don't agree with.
Right. And we're not all going to agree, and that should be okay. Like, we should be able to go, okay, well, thank you for being honest with me, and move on. But
yeah. So where are you at?
okay, so ask me those things like, so where are you at with blank?
Okay, so with going to church.
Gee, I'm sure our listeners have no idea where I'm at with that. Yeah, I'm not, like, I have no desire.
Yeah.
Like, the institution of church that's in my past. I don't think that in my lifetime church is ever going to change to the extent that I believe it needs to for me personally in order to ever go back again. If that happens, like, somewhere in the future, and it is, a true place of healing and genuineness and community, then fine.
What would it have to look like?
I don't even know.
Yeah.
But all I know is that outside the walls of the church, like, I can sit outside, like, right now while we're doing this podcast, I'm, like, watching the trees blow in the wind. That is sanctuary to me. That is where I would prefer to be, other than, rather than inside a church, where I never felt like I belonged, and I never felt like I was good enough. And so, like, why? Mm-hmm. Why would I want to do that?
So that's what I got to do in July. I'm going to speak at the Wild Goose, which has a lot of, diversified views of stuff. It's not all one camp. But I've got to stand up probably to mostly progressives and say, why should I go to church? And kind of make that point. And I can go through all the things we wrote in the book, but it is kind of hard to imagine what it would actually look like, because that's the question people ask you. Well, how would you do it? Well, I don't.
Well, here's the thing. I think if we start doing, like, isn't that what church is now? Isn't church what somebody thought church should look like? And so if I sit there and go, well, I think church should look like this, and then all of a sudden churches look like that, then I feel like I'm contributing to the problem rather than the solution. I don't want to be in charge of telling people what it should look like for them. Like, we have said on this podcast, we aren't telling you never go to church again. Like, if you're truly in your heart of hearts being fed and you feel like you genuinely belong, I'm not going to tell you not to go, but I'm going to tell you that has never been my experience, and so that is why I don't go.
And I'm not going to tell you not to go, but I may have a lot of questions, like, have you healed at all? Is there time to ask questions? Is there, and all those things? And I might encourage you to go honestly evaluate it, because
which is hard to do when you're inside. I think, to honestly evaluate it. I don't know. Maybe there's some people that can honestly do that, and I hope there are. Yeah.
So what about the Bible?
Well, the Bible and I have never been very close. I mean, even in church, I tried. I really tried. I mean, I was in
the Bible. How could you be a good person?
I have no idea. I don't know.
But you are. I mean, you socially in the world, I've always said this. I've said you're better than me, and I've accepted that, right? And you're a great person, and you care deeply about other people, and you're a great friend, yet you got that really outside of church and outside the Bible. You didn't need the Bible to tell you to be kind to someone or compassionate towards someone, or to love your family and love your neighbors.
Right.
And you're even kind to enemies most of the time.
Well, I avoid them. So let's just be real.
Yeah.
Or I avoid them. So, yeah. But yeah, I mean, see, back when we were like in ministry, I really tried. I was in and probably led a number of Bible studies, but I could never do first of all, they were the Beth Moore ones. So, the homework was like ridiculous. Mm-hmm. I had 3 young children. I couldn't spend like 3-4 hours a night just doing homework. But then there was also the contradictory nature of the Bible, and it was always so confusing to me, and then feeling like you couldn't really ask any questions about that. You were just supposed to have faith and believe. That never really lined up for me. And so I carried my Bible into church every Sunday, and it looked good. Mm-hmm. I played the part, I suppose, but mm-hmm. when it came to really having any kind of love for the Bible, I honestly can say that I have never had any kind of deep relationship with the Bible. Mm. And I'm really okay with that now. I'll be honest with you, I would rather read a book about the brain and trauma and how we can heal from our trauma. I will read that cover to cover. But me trying to read the Bible was and that again was just another area where I felt like I'm a failure, and is that really what we want people to feel when they go into church? Do we want them feeling like you're an absolute failure because you don't read your Bible every day and you don't do, XYZ that the Bible says? But yet we have people in churches, I guarantee you, that aren't saying anything, but that is how they feel. Mm-hmm. They feel like they are just trash because they cannot do it all right.
And subconsciously, I would say it's almost necessary to do that. If I'm not afraid of something like hell, then I don't buy whatever, mm-hmm. the church is wanting me to do. If I don't feel like a worm first, then why do I need salvation or mm-hmm. deliverance or whatever?
Right.
So, I think over time, the church just realized, maybe even subconsciously, that we need people to feel bad, mm-hmm. so we can give them something that makes them feel good. And it's kind of sadistic.
It really is
at its root.
Yeah.
And
it's a way to control people.
Yeah. And if you want to discuss this with us, please don't begin with the phrase, "I'm sorry that's your experience, but mine was different," because that just minimizes the whole thing, and
that's gaslighting, in my opinion.
It's not an honest way to have a discussion.
That's not a healthy way to have a discussion.
Yeah.
At all.
Yeah.
I'm willing to share my story and tell you where I'm at, but if you're, just going to wind up gaslighting me or bypassing me, then mm-hmm. our conversation needs to be done.
Yeah. And also, us, we need to be authentic and be honest about the way we struggled, the way mm-hmm. we, what it really is, mm-hmm. and what's really happening, and how effective is it really, do the evaluation. And like you said, I don't want to go into the fish standing by the water illustration, but you've got to take a step back. You got to get a little removed from it so that you can see it objectively and then move on.
And here's this is coming up for me. Here's what I really feel. I do not owe anyone an explanation for what brings me life, mm-hmm. if that makes sense. If I am if what I am doing is not hurting anyone, and it's bringing me life, and it's making me a person that can truly love unconditionally in the best way possible, then my life speaks for itself. I don't think I owe anybody an explanation. Mm-hmm. And I think that I've lived so much of my life thinking I've got to I've got to give people a reason why. I have to give them maybe an excuse for, why I do what I do.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't owe anybody that.
Right.
If I'm hurting someone, if I'm causing harm, absolutely, I do.
Right.
But I'm not.
Right.
I am not. And so, I don't know, that's just really coming up for me strong right now. I don't owe you anything.
Mm-hmm.
As long as I am doing no harm to you, and I am allowing you to live your truth as well.
Yeah, we're taught. And that's what so many people say out in the desert. I have to learn to trust myself because I've been indoctrinated to only trust one person who, went to Bible school, maybe, and is someone that several people voted on at one time to be the leader. But we put all our trust in them and making their dreams come true and all of that. But we don't trust, our own intuition and our own feelings and our own inclinations and our own understanding. But, I don't owe you an explanation.
Right.
If I say I'm good, then I'm good. And
And the thing is I have more fruit now that proves that than I feel like I ever did in church. I felt like there were so many aspects of my life and my personality that I had to hide because I didn't feel accepted.
So what, this is something you don't have to answer. What struggles, what are you growing in? What's something that's challenging for you still that you feel like you're still working on?
I think for me, I just have to always remind myself that I haven't arrived and I'm still going to have setbacks and not to beat myself up about that. So I was sharing how, just Wednesday, I was like, you can do this, and all that those positive affirmations and speaking them out loud, and it was a great day at Step Up Day. And then last night, and I'm just like, how come I can tell myself don't take anything personally and it brings me peace, and then one little incident in an email. So I think just recognizing that we're all going to have those things that maybe trigger us or we take a step back. But that's all part of growth, I think. But yeah, I mean, I think that I'm going to struggle with things. I mean, I think that's just part of life. We're all going to have things that we struggle with. So I don't know if there's really any one thing. But when I look back over the last 4 or 5 years, I can really see how much growth I've done. So I feel like there's just a lot more growth to come. And even when I have those days where I have setbacks.
Yeah. How I kind of see it now is like last night we started off kind of slow on our date. It seemed like that it was a little bit of a struggle, and we weren't. But we've learned, like we've kind of been talking about, that a little bit of pause, maybe verbalize it without, you always do this, or you never do that. But just kind of a pause to reevaluate and think more clearly as we're going along. Ended up, the movie wasn't that great, but
it was super sappy.
Yeah.
But that's okay. I mean, but I look at it like, well, we had the opportunity to go out, and it's been a long time since we've gone to a movie together and things like that. So, yeah. Yeah.
So anyway. So when we were interviewing other people about stories in the desert, we said, so what do you want to tell other people out there? What's the thing you think about the most that you'd like to tell to other people, not just women, but men and women out in the desert that are different points, different places in their evolution. What do you want to tell them?
I would just say, like, wherever you are in the journey is where you are. Like, it's perfect. Like, if you're just starting out, that's great. If you're, maybe if you've stopped at a certain point and you need to sit there for a while, that's great too. I think I would just say, like, just continue to listen to your inner knowing, because if you've, gotten to a certain point and you've kind of stopped and you're resting because that's what's best for you, and that's what's best for you, then I think that's fine. And then when you're ready to start traveling, that journey again, as long as you are the one that is in control of your journey. Like, I just want to say, don't let anyone else hijack your journey. Because we're all in different, you and I are in different places in our journey. And, like, we've just learned to be okay with that. I'm not scared of, anything that you bring up, and I've never gotten a reaction from you other than, so you'll say to me, is that okay? Like, for you, is that okay for you? Like, basically, as long as you're okay with where you're at, then, I don't have anything to fear about that. So I guess that would be my words of wisdom, or whatever you want to call it. Just make sure you're checking in with yourself, because you're the one that matters in all of this. It's not what everybody else thinks you should be doing. And that's hard sometimes, because if you have family that's not supportive, or you're still in church and they're, not supportive, that can be really, really hard. But again, I would go back to ask yourself, do you really belong there then, or are you just trying to fit in?
So I was thinking about something. Sometimes I have a lightning round, but if I said be, if my advice to the world was, so I say be where you are, be who you are. So be authentic, be present. Are there words like that you could say, like in a sentence? So be what?
Oh gosh.
What would you say?
I don't know. That's a hard one.
Let me give you some, and you see what you think
I'll
about
see
them.
if they fit.
Be compassionate.
Yeah. With yourself, for sure. With yourself first. And then I think once you're compassionate with yourself, you can be compassionate with others. That fits.
Or as RuPaul says, you can't love yourself.
How the hell are you going to love anybody else?
So be compassionate. And so mine are two big ones are be present. What about that one?
Yeah, I do like be present a lot, because our worlds are so busy. We can, honestly, when I don't want to think about or deal with stuff, I make myself busy, and then I don't have to think about it. But I think it's really important to be present, so that, and see what comes up. See what you need to maybe start working on in order to be the best version of yourself you can be.
What about being authentic? So you kind of wove those two together.
Yeah. But I think that also goes with, when you're authentic, then you can belong in the spaces that you are meant to belong in. When you're not authentic, you are just fitting in. And you're constantly going to have to change who you are based on what people think you should be. That just makes me tired thinking about it. I'll be honest with you, because I lived that way for so long, and it's exhausting. it's exhausting.
And I think, in hearing your story and hearing you answer all these questions, for me, it just kind of reiterates that that it's okay for us to decide what we think, and it's okay to, that some of our decisions will move us away from groups of people.
That's what I was going to say, that sometimes it moves you away, and you have to, you're going to have to learn to be okay with that.
It is a loss.
It is.
But
and I think it's okay to grieve. I think it's like perfectly natural to grieve that too.
But it's not the end of the world.
No. I would say, you need to surround yourself with people that are totally okay with you being who you are, and not being stuck on one specific belief or a handful of beliefs, but they're so okay with you continuing to learn and grow and learn and learn new things and evolve, right? And evolve. Because here's what I think when you say, that I shared my story. I'm like, but my story's not over. Like, I don't know where I'm going to be or what I'm going to think in 5 years. But if I can still live in that authenticity and like I need to be okay with me first. And as long as I'm happy with me, and as long as I'm proud of myself, and as long as I'm doing what, feeds me and my soul, then I'm going to be good, regardless of where our journey takes us. It sounds very much like platitudes and stuff like that, but I really feel that really deep. And I do know that is something I probably wouldn't have been able to say about 2 years ago.
So I was thinking of joining a coaches network a while back, and what they kept saying, like in their video and so on, it's just a bunch of like-minded people. And I said, what are you like-minded about? And they didn't know. I said, first of all, how can you be like-minded if you don't know what you're agreeing on? And then, is that really the goal anyway?
Right.
Is it to be where we all think exactly the same? I'm glad when I see patterns on the Desert Sanctuary when we're interviewing people. I see patterns that are working for people. I can go, yeah, that would probably work for me too. And then I try it, and it does resonate. It does help, and so that's good. But I can't, I can't sacrifice my integrity. I can't sacrifice the other things that are important to us, just to stay part of the group.
Right.
When you move forward, you're going to move away from some people that don't want to move. And even though you're not asking them to change, that's still going to happen. And like you said, we have to grieve it, but they continue to be authentic and continue to move on.
And if they're living in their authenticity, then, can we mutually respect one another for that? It's not for me to determine whether they're authentic or not, even though, part of me wants to judge that and say, well, but everybody's in a different place. And I think as long as you're living from your true authenticity, then you're right where you need to be.
Yeah. And one of our friends says, Jason Neelam says, well, I don't know, that was 4 or 5 Jasons ago.
Yeah.
Not that he's just changing to be...
No, but isn't that what we should be doing, is like continuing to grow and evolve? I mean, really, like it is. And like, even though I'm at a place where I feel like, and Jason shared this on our last podcast, that he feels like he's healed, like he's at the end of a 4-year healing journey or cycle. And I'm like, and I get that. But I also know for me that there'll be other things that I need to heal from. and that's okay too, because I think that's when we grow, is when we go, okay, what's the next layer of the onion that I need to peel back and look at?
Yeah, it's good. Good stuff.
Yeah, well, thanks for letting me be on.
Yeah.
How can people reach me? Well, let me tell you. Because that's usually my question.
That's usually your question.
Well, honestly, if you want to know anything about whole brain teaching, like, you can just message me. I do have an Instagram where I haven't been on Instagram very much as far as posting stuff, but I mean, I'd be happy to share videos with anybody that is an educator or a parent and wants to know more about it. But other than that, I mean, you can get me, you can message me on the Desert Sanctuary, or just message me on Facebook or whatever. That's probably the best way.
Yeah.
I'm kind of trying to be a little more mindful about how much social media I'm on, so I haven't really been posting a whole lot. I will say, though, that anything that I feel is strong and really comes from my heart, as far as deconstruction or trauma and church wounds and things like that, I will put on the Desert Sanctuary Facebook page. Yeah. I try very hard to keep that part of my life separate, just because I do have colleagues, and I don't know, just for my own mental health and mental well-being, I need to keep those things separate.
Yeah,
so
it's okay to have those boundaries.
Yeah, for sure.
So, yeah, and a lot of this discussion would probably be helpful for people to read Out into the Desert, which is our book from last fall, but also the new novel. The second novel is out, and I think what's important to understand about my novels, and I don't know
which are The Hotel and The Diner. The Diner is the latest one.
Right. I don't know if people realize that they're not just stories. We did try to write them well and have them be captivating, and most people are reading it in a day or two. So I'm assuming that means that it's interesting and it keeps their interest.
Right.
But also the stories are about transformation, about each of the characters transforming, and maybe not always a religious kind of deconstruction or things like that, but they're working through their trauma, which might have been caused by religion or from their families or from life. And so all of them are working through things like that, and most of the people see themselves or see some of the people they know in the book, and some of them recognize that part of it's me,
right?
That myself comes out in them. But I'd encourage people to check those out, to check out all our books, because starting with the very first one, it's a chronicle of our deconstruction, pretty much, and starting with The Parent Faith, where you could begin, and then The Tea Shop and Being and all the other books would be helpful to people. But for now, I suppose we ought to sign off, right?
Yeah, well, this has been a good conversation. It only took us 5 tries. But
yeah, we had a hard time getting started, but after that it was good.
We get kind of silly when we first get started, but we should do an outtake one of these times.
Sure.
Let people know what the real, we are so not professional podcasters. Let them know the real deal behind our podcast.
I'm happy about that. So, as always, we encourage you to be where you are, be who you are, and be at peace. We'll see you.
Thank you for joining us today on the Desert Sanctuary.
Remember, all that wander in the desert are not lost. We hope that you know
you are seen,
you are heard,
and you are loved.